Welcome to Quality Time with MoreSteam. I am your host, Dan Swartwout. Thank you so much for joining us today. On today's episode, we're going to do something just a little bit different. I'm going to walk you through a hypothetical case study that illustrates how Lean Six Sigma principles could transform a professional gridiron football team, like a team you'd find in the National Football League. That's right. We're taking Lean Six Sigma out of the factory and into the stadium to see how it could help a struggling team turn things around. Now, let's be honest, more people probably know about football than Lean Six Sigma. You might have a favorite team, a favorite play, or at least a memory of a big game, but Lean Six Sigma? For a lot of folks, that's still a bit of a mystery, something for engineers or analysts or consultants. But what if I told you that the same principles that help companies build better cars or deliver faster service can also help a football team win more games? By applying Lean Six Sigma to football, we can open up a whole new way of thinking about problem solving, one that you can use in your own work, your own projects, and your own life. If you can see how Lean Six Sigma works on the field, you can see how it works just about anywhere. Now, to be clear, the team you're about to hear about, the Columbus Tigers, is fictional. I use the team name Columbus Tigers because MoreSteam is based here in the United States in Central Ohio. And about a century ago, there was a football team in the National Football League based out of Columbus, Ohio, called the Columbus Tigers. And about a century ago, the league headquarters of the National Football League was actually right here in downtown Columbus. That's why I've chosen the name Columbus Tigers. Now, the Columbus Tigers in this case study, it's a fictional team, but the challenges they face and the solutions they use are based on real Lean Six Sigma tools and thinking. And as we go, I'll explain every Lean Six Sigma term in plain English using football as our lens. If you know football, you'll be able to see how these principles work. If you know Lean Six Sigma, you'll see how these principles can be applied anywhere, even on the gridiron. So let's get ready to kick off. See what I did there? Now picture this. The Columbus Tigers have just wrapped up their third straight losing season. The stadium, once packed with roaring fans, now has empty seats. The local press is relentless. The owners are frustrated. The players demoralized. They've invested in new coaches, signed expensive free agents, and even changed their uniforms, but nothing seems to work. Sound familiar? Maybe not the football part, but if you've ever worked in an organization that just can't seem to get traction, you know this story. But here's where our hypothetical case study takes a turn. Instead of repeating the cycle, firing another coach, hiring another star, the Tigers' general manager decides to try something different. The general manager proposes bringing in Lean Six Sigma. Now, if you're new to this, you might be thinking, isn't Lean Six Sigma for factories, for manufacturing, for spreadsheets and assembly lines? And you'd be right, those are the roots. But as we're about to see, the principles of Lean Six Sigma can be applied anywhere, even in the high-stakes, fast-paced world of professional gridiron football. Before we go any further, let's pause and define our terms. Lean Six Sigma is a methodology that combines two powerful approaches. Lean, which focuses on eliminating waste and making processes flow smoothly, and Six Sigma, which focuses on reducing variation and defects. Together, they help organizations improve quality, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. In Lean Six Sigma, we use data, structured problem solving, and a mindset of continuous improvement to tackle challenges big and small. So back to our Tigers. The GM set a bold, clear goal: improve the team's winning percentage from a dismal 35% to at least 60% over the next 2 seasons. That's the kind of ambitious, measurable target we love to see in Lean Six Sigma, what we call a SMART goal. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It's not enough to say get better. You need to know how much better, by when, and how you'll measure it. The Tigers decide to focus on two key areas: offensive efficiency, how well the team moves the ball and scores points, and player injuries, which have been a major drag on performance. Too many starters are sidelined, and the backups just can't keep up. To tackle this, the GM assembles a cross-functional team. That means bringing together people from different parts of the organization: the head coach, offensive and defensive coordinators, athletic trainers, data analysts, and even a Lean Six Sigma black belt. Now, a black belt in Lean Six Sigma isn't about martial arts. It's a professional who's trained to lead improvement projects and use statistical tools to solve tough problems. The DMAIC framework, let's talk about that. The Tigers use DMAIC. This is the backbone of most Lean Six Sigma projects. DMAIC stands for define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. Think of it as a structured playbook for solving problems. Let's walk through each phase using the Tigers story as our guide. First up is define. In this phase, the team works to understand exactly what problem they're trying to solve, who the stakeholders are, and what success looks like. They talk to everyone: players, coaches, trainers, even fans. They gather the voice of the customer. In this case, the customer is anyone who cares about the Tigers' success. They learn that fans want more excitement and wins. Players want safer, more efficient practices and fewer injuries. Ownership wants results: higher ticket sales, more merchandise, and of course, playoff appearances. The team sets 3 SMART goals. 1, increase average points per game from 17.2 to 24. 2, reduce soft tissue injuries by 40%. And 3, improve practice efficiency, measured as productive reps per hour by 30%. They document all this in a project charter. That's a Lean Six Sigma tool that lays out the scope, objectives, team members' timeline, and expected benefits of the project. It's like a contract that keeps everyone aligned. Next comes the measure phase. This is all about collecting data to understand how things work today. In Lean Six Sigma, we call this establishing the baseline. The Tigers gather data on everything they can think of: offensive stats like yards per play, red zone efficiency — that's how often they score when they're inside the 20-yard line — third down conversions, and turnovers. Injury logs: the type, frequency, timing, and context of injuries, practice or game, contact or non-contact. Practice data: the number of reps per session, time spent on drills, error rates like missed assignments or penalties. And player workload: tracking of movement, heart rate variability, and recovery times. They use operational definitions to make sure everyone measures things the same way. For example, what counts as a productive rep? How do you define a soft tissue injury? This avoids confusion and ensures the data is reliable. Now, the baseline numbers aren't pretty. The offense is averaging just 4.8 yards per play, red zone efficiency is at 48%, third down conversions at 32%, and turnovers at 1.8 per game. The team suffered 22 soft tissue injuries last season, well above the league average, and practice efficiency is low, only 60 productive reps per hour, with 12% of reps wasted due to confusion or miscommunication. But now they have a clear picture of where they stand. Next comes the analyze phase. This is where the team digs into the data to find the root causes of their problems. In Lean Six Sigma, we don't just treat symptoms, we look for the underlying issues. The Tigers use several tools here. First, they create a process map. That's a visual diagram that shows each step in a process. They map out how a play is called, communicated, executed, and reviewed. This helps them spot where things are breaking down. In football terms, it's like reviewing game film, but for everything the team does, not just the plays. Next, they use a Pareto chart. This is a bar graph that helps you see which problems are the biggest contributors. The Tigers discover that 70% of offensive errors come from just 20% of the playbook, the most complex plays and communication breakdowns. This is the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. A small number of causes often lead to most of the problems. For injuries, they use a fishbone diagram, also known as an Ishikawa diagram or cause and effect diagram. Imagine a fish skeleton. The head is the problem, in this case, frequent injuries. The backbone is a line pointing to it, and the ribs are the main categories of possible causes, like training, equipment, environment, or player habits. Off each rib, you can branch out smaller bones representing more specific causes. This visual tool helps the team brainstorm and organize all the possible reasons for injuries so they can investigate each one systematically. They also use a histogram. Think of a histogram as a bar graph that shows how often something happens within certain ranges or bins. For example, a histogram could show how many practices had 0 to 2 injuries, 3 to 5 injuries, and so on. This helps the Tigers see patterns in their data, like whether most injuries happen during high-intensity practices or if there's a certain time of year when injuries spike. A scatter plot is another tool in their arsenal. This is a graph where each point represents a pair of values, like practice intensity and number of injuries. By plotting these points, the Tigers can see if there's a relationship. If the points form a pattern, like a line moving upward, it suggests that higher intensity leads to more injuries. This is the kind of visual tool that makes it easy to spot trends at a glance. And then there's regression analysis. This is a statistical technique that helps the team quantify the relationship between two variables, like how much injuries increase for each step up in practice intensity. If the scatter plot is football-shaped, imagine that. That is, the points cluster in a way that looks like a football, the regression line gives a good summary of the relationship. Armed with the insights from all of these statistical tools, the Tigers move to the improve phase. This is where Lean Six Sigma gets creative. First, they streamline the playbook, cutting out 35% of the plays, especially the plays that cause the most confusion and errors. The Tigers instead focus on high-success, low-error plays. This makes it easier for players to master the playbook and reduces mistakes during games. The Tigers also introduce real-time video feedback during practice. Coaches use tablets to show players what just happened, allowing for immediate corrections. This is a classic example of visual management, making problems visible so they can be addressed quickly. Communication protocols are standardized. The Tigers develop a set of clear, consistent hand signals and terminology so everyone is on the same page. No more last-minute confusion in the huddle. Practice routines are redesigned to maximize engagement and minimize downtime. They use standard work, a lean concept that means defining the best, most consistent way to do a task. They sequence drills to build skills progressively and eliminate redundant or outdated activities. The Tigers also introduce Kaizen sessions. Kaizen is a Japanese word meaning continuous improvement. It's about making small, ongoing changes for the better. Every week, players and coaches meet to suggest tweaks to practice routines, game plans, or even locker room logistics. This creates a culture where everyone is looking for ways to improve, not just waiting for orders from above. On the injury front, the Tigers develop individualized warm-up and conditioning routines based on each player's data. They institute mandatory rest periods and load management so players aren't pushed too hard. They collaborate with nutritionists to optimize hydration and recovery. They roll out a digital dashboard for real-time injury tracking so trainers can spot trends and intervene early. They also implement poke-yoke. That's a lean term for mistake proofing. For example, they use color-coded water bottles to ensure players are hydrating properly and checklists to make sure warm-ups are done correctly every time. Finally, we reach control. In Lean Six Sigma, control is about making sure the improvements stick. The Tigers create standard operating procedures, SOPs, for everything. Practice routines, injury prevention, play calling, these are documented, shared, and reviewed regularly. The Tigers roll out live dashboards to track key metrics, points per game, injury rates, practice efficiency. The dashboards use simple color coding: green for on target, yellow for caution, red for action needed. These are displayed in the locker room and coaches' offices so everyone knows where they stand. They hold monthly DMAIC reviews, meetings where the team reviews progress, addresses new issues, and celebrates successes. They also conduct quarterly player surveys to gather feedback and identify new opportunities for improvement. The Tigers use control charts. That's a Six Sigma tool that tracks variation over time to monitor key metrics and spot any signs of backsliding. If a metric starts to drift, they can take action before it becomes a big problem. The Tigers also establish a continuous improvement program, a formal process for collecting, evaluating, and implementing new ideas from anyone in the organization. So what happens? What are the results? Of course, this is a fictional case study of a fictional football team. There is no pro football team called the Columbus Tigers. There was a century ago, but there isn't now. And because this is a fictional case study of a fictional football team, the results are whatever I say they are. But I do know this: when the principles of Lean Six Sigma and continuous improvement are applied to any organization, big changes do happen. Big results do happen. And here, in just one season, the Tigers' offense jumps to 22.8 points per game. Red zone efficiency climbs to 61%. Soft tissue injuries drop to the league average. Practice efficiency soars to 78 productive reps per hour. And the team finishes 10-7, making the playoffs for the first time in years. But maybe the biggest win is cultural. Everyone from the GM to the rookie kicker is engaged in improvement. Data is transparent, feedback is encouraged, and small wins add up to big results. As we close this podcast episode out, let's take a closer look at some of the Lean Six Sigma tools that the Tigers used. The process map. This is a diagram that shows each step in a process. The Tigers mapped out how a play is called, communicated, executed, and reviewed. By visualizing the process, they could spot where things were breaking down, like miscommunication in the huddle or delays at the line of scrimmage. Dashboard. This is a real-time display of key performance indicators, things like points per game and injury rates. The dashboard uses color coding: green for good, yellow for warning, and red for action needed. It keeps everyone focused on what matters. Statistical analysis. Tools like regression analysis help the team see patterns in the data. For example, if injuries spike when practice intensity goes above a certain level, they can adjust the plan before someone gets hurt. Fishbone diagram. This tool helps teams brainstorm all the possible causes for a problem. For the Tigers, it revealed that overtraining, hydration, and warm-up routines were all contributing to injuries. The diagram looks like a fish skeleton, with each bone representing a category of possible causes and smaller bones for specific factors. Pareto charts. By showing which problems were the biggest contributors to errors, the Tigers could focus their efforts where they'd have the biggest impact. Histogram. This is a bar graph that shows how often different outcomes occur. For the Tigers, a histogram helped them see the distribution of injuries per practice so they could spot patterns and outliers. Scatter plot. This graph shows the relationship between two variables like practice intensity and injuries. If the dots form a pattern, it suggests a connection. For the Tigers, the scatter plot showed that more intense practices led to more injuries. So what are the lessons? What can we learn from this hypothetical case study? First, Lean Six Sigma isn't just for factories. It's for any team, on the field or off, that wants to get better. Second, real improvement happens when everyone's involved, from leadership to the front lines. And third, data is powerful, but only if you use it to drive action. Whether you're leading a business, coaching a team, or just trying to improve your own work, the Tiger's story shows that continuous improvement is a team sport. Almost every team sport has a timeout. So I'm going to take a timeout for this short break. MoreSteam's enterprise process improvement platform includes the tools, training, and software you need to transform your organization into a problem-solving powerhouse. Join the ranks of Fortune 500 companies that trust MoreSteam for their enterprise process improvement. Our integrated approach featuring training, project tracking and execution, simulations, and statistical analysis empowers your team to create a culture where structured problem-solving becomes second nature. Visit MoreSteam.com to learn more. Now let's bring it all together. Take a step back and imagine what it would be like to work in an organization like the Tigers. Every day, you'd know exactly what your goals are. You'd see your progress on a dashboard. You'd be encouraged to speak up when you see a problem, and your ideas for improvement would be welcomed. You'd have clear, consistent processes for everything you do. You'd use data, not gut feelings, to make decisions, and you'd celebrate wins, big and small, as a team. That's the power of Lean Six Sigma. It's not about jargon or bureaucracy. It's about making work better for everyone. As we bring this episode to a close, I hope you have enjoyed the story of the Columbus Tigers. Why did I do this episode? Well, sometimes the best way to understand a complex idea is to see it in a context you already know and care about. Football is a game many of us are familiar with, and by applying Lean Six Sigma principles to the Tigers' journey, we can see how these tools and methods aren't just abstract concepts, they're practical strategies that can help any organization improve. Whether you're leading a team at work, managing a project, or just looking for ways to solve problems more effectively, the lessons from the Tigers remind us that improvement is universal. It's about clarity, collaboration, and using data to guide decisions. When you take something familiar like football and apply a structured approach like Lean Six Sigma, the path to better outcomes becomes clearer. So if you've been curious about Lean Six Sigma but weren't sure where to start, think about the games you watch, the teams you root for, or the challenges you face daily. The principles we've explored today can be adapted to fit your world, helping you and your team score more wins no matter the field. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Quality Time with MoreSteam. I'm Dan Swartwout, and remember, every day is game day when you're committed to quality. You have been listening to Quality Time with MoreSteam. You can email the show at qualitytime@moresteam.com. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast service. Also, please go ahead and visit our website, moresteam.com, to learn about the software and tools that can help you solve problems, eliminate waste, and do things better. We'll be back in 2 weeks with more Quality Time with MoreSteam. Thanks again.